Hey everybody, Phil from Two Forks. So I tore all my benches out on the other side because they were all junk, and I'll show you that. I'm redoing that whole side, and I'll make a little video about that and see how it comes out. But in the meantime, I've got to make a fireplace around for somebody, and I have no benches, so I kind of need one now. I've always wanted one anyway. I want to have a decent bench over there that I can get all the way around. The other ones were up against the wall, and it was kind of problematic. So I'm going to build it, and I'm just doing it out of fir, this new growth Doug fir. It'll be fine. I'm a ham and eggs kind of guy anyway, so it'll be perfect. I root for the Jets after all, so I can make benches out of Doug fir. I'm going to use those boards back. By the way, can you hear me? I finally have a microphone that supposedly makes it better. I hope you can hear me now. Everybody was commenting that my audio stinks. Is it better now? I hope so. So I'm going to use these poplar boards for the surface. I'll frame it all up so it's strong. I don't do a lot of beating on my bench. If I were to, I would probably make it a butcher block style where you can really hammer on it, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna sort of frame it like a floor. It'll be something anybody can do. You can buy this material at your local lumber yard if you want to. It's gonna be about 30 inches wide, and really the only sort of trick thing that I'm gonna do is I have some extensions from a table that you'd pull the table apart and drop the leaves down in. I'm going to use those, but not in the center. I'm going to use them on the outside. So you'll pull it out. Those are only 30 inches. You'll pull it out, it'll become about 41 inches. And then, because I don't have a lot of room on that side, then I'll be able to close it back up. But at least then, if I have 36-inch clamps, and I'll be able to, the table will be able to accommodate them, and then I can just push them back so I have the room. But I'm excited to have a bench that I can get all the way around because I haven't for a while. So, as usual, I'm going to get to work milling this material up. I'm going to take the radius off of it and make it not look so much like framing lumber. And then when I get to a point where I'm starting to put it back together, I'll bring you guys back and show you the steps that I take to build this. Because again, I think everybody could build this. It's going to be real simple. Screws, plugs, that type of a thing. Utilitarian, it's going to work, and it'll look halfway decent. Not going to have a lot of storage because I have plenty of storage. I'll keep sort of my glue and my cordless drills underneath there. Maybe a couple other tools that I use frequently. The rest of it I can store someplace else. So I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to milling, and then I'll bring you guys back. So see you in a minute. Okay, so we got all of our parts pretty much cut to length. They're all milled up, and when I say I mill them up, all I really do is, this is what it looks like when you get it at the lumber yard. It's pretty nasty, and it has these radii on the edges, and I just want to take those off. So I just clean it all up. I run it through the planer, run it through the joiner, the table saw, and just to get it nice and smooth and nice and square, flat, and all uniform size. So it's easier to build stuff when everything obviously is the same size. So these are the legs, and I cut these legs on the bandsaw. I find that my jigsaw, at least, when it's this thickness, the blade tends to wander a little bit, and you don't really get a nice flat cut right here, which I like. Again, it's just a workbench. We're not building a piano, so don't worry too much about it if yours is a little bit sloppy, but we don't want too sloppy. So anyway, I use the bandsaw to cut these. This is obviously an easy cut on the bandsaw. So this is going to fit down on here, under this bottom stretcher part and this top part. And then the second leg essentially is just this. And it fits in between those two guys, because then the other stretcher parts are going to be running like this. Where'd that go? And this will be the other one. These are obviously running the 6 foot length to basically the same setup on the other end. Now for me, the only tricky part is that I want this to move in and out. If yours isn't going to move in and out, then don't listen to the rest of what I'm about to say. But if you do want to move this in and out, and you have a couple of these laying around, I know you can still buy these things. I happen to have a couple. This is what's going to move in and out. This part's going to essentially attach to the framing, because I'm going to build pretty much a floor inside of here, so I can put my poplar boards on top of it. And in that framing, I have 4 of these that I'm going to put in there, attach here, and then this part's going to move out. The only tricky part about that is in the framing, I'm going to have to cut this notch so that this thing can move in and out through this notch. And I cut this on the bandsaw, and then I actually use my mortising attachment, because I want this to be a pretty nice straight cut, and I could probably do it with the jigsaw, but again, the same situation with the blade wandering, and it's pretty tight in there. So I just cut it off with my mortising jig. So we're gonna have this, and the other problem here is that this is gonna probably be a little bit weak because we have to cut so much of it out. I got some 5/4 maple that I'm gonna attach on here because I have the room to do it, and that ought to gusset it enough. And I think also I'll have a leg that's gonna run from the bottom up, probably in the middle of this, to add a little bit of support. I don't think it's gonna be a problem, but I don't want it to be a problem either. So I'll do the best I can to make sure that that's not gonna split out. So I'm going to start assembling all of this, and once I get to the part where I'm going to start building the interior framing, I'll show you what's going on, and I'll show you how I attach all that. Most of this is just going to be screws, and then I'm going to plug it. If you don't have a plug cutter, you should get one because they're kind of cool. And so I'll just fill all those holes with plugs so you don't see any of the screws. So I'm going to get to that, and then I'll show you where I am in a little bit. All right, so for those of you who don't know what a plug cutter is, this is it. And it's just this hollow bit, and it starts off at the size that the hole you need to drill, and then it tapers, it gets smaller. So then you put the small part in the hole, and it gets to the size. This is 3/8, and I'll show you real quick. You can actually do this just with a regular drill. It doesn't have to be in a drill press, but it helps. And try and go down as far as you can go. Up. So then, yeah, you have that. This little. Then you can either take a little chisel or an awl or something and just pop that out. I'm going to drop right behind you and use my bandsaw. And that's what you end up with, this little tapered plug. So pretty slick. Again, I recommend it, and you can use a regular drill for it. You don't have to use the drill press. All right, so we got this thing framed in here, put together, framed up. It's pretty simple stuff. It's all just sort of screwed together and then plugged. This little frame inside here is, it's pretty easy. Screwed in from the back, and I'll plug those. This is the tricky part now. So I'm going to try and use these, as I said. This is just temporarily suspended out there so that I can cut through here, which I'm going to do, and then mark where these are going to hit on this thing, because I don't have a lot to screw into on the end there, so I got to be pretty precise with that. So I want to know exactly where these things, when they extend out, I can screw into this piece that's going to hold it up. Hopefully it holds it up. And I don't have to be terribly accurate with this. I want it to be, width-wise, not too big. And even if I go a little deep on the bottom, I'll probably put a little piece of maple, hard maple up underneath there so that this thing has something to run on the bottom. So even if I go a little further, it's probably better that it runs on that hard maple than it does on this fir. Although I don't anticipate opening and closing this thing all that much. And it may be completely nuts, and this may just fail and not work like many of the things that I do. But I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. If it doesn't work, then I'll just pull it closed and screw it in, and that'll be the size of my bench. But I really do want to try and make this thing work. And this is what I'm using to cut the slots. I was going to do it differently, but this is a fine tool, I don't know what they call these things actually, but I call it a fine tool. But Fine's a brand. I know a lot of different companies make it. If you don't have one of these, get one of these things. These are great, not just for this kind of work, but if you do any kind of trim carpentry or stuff like that. It's one of those tools that when you get one, you wonder why you didn't have it before. And I know I say that a lot, but this one truly is a really great tool. So I'll be able to cut down here and cut down and cut the bottom out, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to give it a shot. Keep your fingers crossed. I can't cross mine. And hopefully I can get myself out of here. So I'll see you in a little bit. So real quick, I thought I'd just show you how these things attach. It's not hard. They all may be different, but the ones I have are pretty easy to deal with. Just clamp them on, and you want the tops of them to be flush with the framing surfaces, because you want these things to just be basically helping to support the panel as you drop it in. You want it to all be flush. So just throw a couple screws in there, and then the runners actually come off if you slide them backwards. And this may not always be the case, but it is with mine. So I'll just slide this back out. It's just a couple little dovetails sort of that hold the thing together. So I'll pre-drill that again, and then throw another screw, and that thing's on there. And I'm just going to pop that thing back on and then run it out to the outside to that frame. And then I'll throw this clamp behind it to help hold it, and then pre-drill it because it is pretty hard oak. And we're going to be throwing a couple 3-inch screws in there. I'm just putting a little bit of wax on there because it helps it go in. It's a good little carpenter's tip. And butter that guy up. In she goes. And that's that. Pretty easy stuff. All right, so I got these all in. And by the way, forgive this. We're remodeling the shop down here, so I apologize. It looks terrible. When it's all done, I'll show it to you. I got these all in, and this is a moment of truth. I'm going to take the screws out of the back and see if this thing slides. Or maybe it just falls right to the ground. Or the whole bench tips over. Huh? What do you know about that? I think this may work. Ouch. All right. Well, it didn't seem to fall. Let's see if it slides. Oh yeah, that's stout. Oh. Not bad. Just hitting on the leg over here a tiny bit. It's just a skosh low, but that's easy to fix. And I think that my runners could use a little wax, but I think it worked. I'm very pleased. I just need to plug these holes and maybe, like I said, wax those up a little because they haven't been used in 100 years, but she works. All right, so now I just need to drop the poplar inserts in here and we'll be about done. I'll have to make a leaf over here. I don't have that, but all right. Okay, so I've got the poplar in here. They're a little bit funny because the breadboard ends and stuff aren't exactly the same, but I don't care. I like them. They were a friend of mine's and I'm keeping them. So the one thing when these things when I put these down, and if you do something like this, is something to keep in mind, the harder you screw these down into the framing material, the harder it is to get out, because these things are essentially riding against the bottom of these panels, which is what I wanted, because inside of there is, you know, a section of the runner, and I wanted the top of this to kind of hold this from going down. Everything's to try and prevent it from sagging. But it just makes it a little bit tougher to push in, but not really. Nothing we can't get over. So this is it. It's not done. The walls aren't done. Nothing's done. So I'll show you when I get the shop completed. I'm going to fill in the bottom here, and then I'm going to have a shelf that runs in here so that when I'm doing glue ups and stuff, I have a place to put things rather than on the bench, which is annoying when chisels are rolling around and everything else. But anyway, I'm really pleased with it. I still have to make the poplar panel to drop in there, the leaf, if you will. But it came out the way I was hoping. And so if you guys do something like this, send me a picture if you can. I don't even know how, but hope you enjoyed it. And even if you're just going to make a bench like this, I hope this helped. Pretty easy stuff, less than $100 in material, and it's pretty stout. So I'm pleased with it. Everybody stay peaceful, and I'll see you in the next video.